So the question is, can you describe the main difference between a for each loop and a map loop, and why would you pick one versus the other? Okay. So before we look at the actual main difference between the for each and the map higher order function, let's look at what for each does. So let's refer the documentation. We have the for each method. The for each method executes a provided function once for each array element. It works on an array. So the for each method executes a provided function once for each array element. Okay. So the for each is one of the higher order function, which basically accepts another function as a callback, and the function which is accepting, or the function which is provided, it executes it once for each array element. Okay, so let's take an array of 5, and now let's say I'm using array.forEach method. It accepts a function. We are providing a function, and let's say callback function or whatever you call it. Now let me just write as element, and let's say I just want to print it. Okay. Now let me just run the program. Okay, so we have 1 2 3 4 5. So what's basically happening here is, for each, as we just read here, executes a provided function once for each array element. So it's executing this provided function once for each array element. Okay, now let's say I do it like el plus maybe 10. Okay, now we have the answer as 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So the for each is executing this provided method once for each array element. So when it's for the first array element 1, our output is 11 because 1 plus 10 is 11. When it comes to the second element, the output is 12 plus 2, and 2 plus 10 is 12, and so on. You get the idea, right? So that's the for each method. Also, it accepts other things like the index, basically 3 things, and these are optional. So the first one is the element, second one is the index, and third is the array itself. Okay, you can refer the embedded documentation for more details about this. Now let's look at what map does. Okay, we understood what for each does. It executes the provided function once for each array element, right? Now let's see what map does. So let's take the same array, that array equal to 1 2 3 4 5. And before we actually see the example, let's refer MDN once and look at the definition of map. So yeah, here it says the map method creates a new array. You can see it's a bit highlighted. The map method creates a new array populated with the results of calling a provided function on every element in the calling array. Okay, so in simple words, map method is almost similar to the for each method, just that the for each method executes this provided function once for every array element, or once for each array element, right? But the map, what map does is, as it executes this provided function on each element of the array, the resultant values is stored in a new array. It creates a new array and stores the resultant values. Okay, let's read this again. The map method creates a new array. Okay, it creates a new array populated with the results of calling a provided function on every element in the calling array. Okay, so the map function basically creates a new array, and this new array has the resultant values or the modified values of the original array. Okay, now let's see what that means. So let's say it creates a new array. So let's write a new array equal to array.map. We have element, and let's say we are returning here, not printing, because it stores in the new array. If you just wanted to print, we would just use for each. So now let's say EL plus 200, for example, and let me just run the new array. So now we have 201, 202, and so on. So what happened? We have the array, okay, array. We are running a map and we're providing a function. So this provided function is executed for each element in the array, okay, in the array, and its resultant values are stored in the new array, okay. That's the value difference. Now let's say if we have the same two things, let me make it EL plus 10, okay, and if we just had the for each, we are not able to store these resultant values, or like whatever we are adding, right, 10 plus the each number in the array, we are not storing this anywhere. Our original array remains the same. Now let's just print the original array and look at it. So yeah, so as you can see here, though we are running the for each method, it is executing this provided function for each element in the array, but the original array is not modified. So we are not able to store this resultant values anywhere using for each. Of course, you can have a new array and do like array dot push and all that. But you get the difference, right? For each executes the provided function once for each array element. It doesn't return a new array or something. Okay. So when you want a new array, map returns a new array having the modified values. Okay. It executes the provided function for each array element, and those modified values are stored in the new array. Okay. We can just run that. Yeah, so we have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 now with us in a new array, because this new array was created with the map when map returned its values, its modified values of the given array. Okay, so let's summarize. So in simple words, we will use for each whenever we have to iterate over an array. Okay, iterate or traverse over an array. And we'll use map when we want to store the modified values of the given array. Okay, so that's the difference. Now let's just see one example for each and one for map again. So let's say I have an array with some names. Let's say Alice, Bob, and so on. And let's say I just want to welcome them. So maybe I can just write array dot for each the element, and I just want to print it as welcome plus ELE. Okay. Now let's just run this program. So we have welcome Alice, welcome Bob, welcome Alan. Okay. Now here I don't really need to store the welcome with the person's name somewhere, right? I have a list of names. I have an array of names. I just want to traverse over it and I just want to traverse over them and just like print. Okay. So here the for each is helpful for us. But now let's take another example. Let me call it some numbers. And let's say it's 100 plus some random numbers. Maybe you can call them as bills or whatever it is. And let's say you want to not just print them, but you want to store these numbers with some extra values, okay, or like any type of modification. So this can be as simple as adding some number. Maybe like you can think of this as a bill of the things that need to be delivered, and maybe you need to add the parcel charges. Okay, so I can just have a new array, final array, numbers dot map. I'm taking the each number, I can call it anything, num. I just want to add some charges, like let's say 30 rupees. Okay, and when you print the final, so you have the final array with the resultant values, And if you look at the definition again, it creates a new array populated with the results of calling a provided function. So whatever results we got that are stored in a new array. Okay, and your original array remains unmodified. So I can when print that numbers. Okay, so you can see here our original array remains as it is, and we have the modified array with whatever modification we want to do in a new array, all these values in a new array. Okay, so that's the difference between ForEach and map. And also we discussed an example on why you would pick one versus the other. We would pick the ForEach when you just want to traverse through an array and maybe print or whatever you want to do it, but we will just traverse it. But when you want to store the resultant values in a new array, then we use map. So that's the example we discussed.